Hi everybody and welcome to Matrix Live. I think still season 2, probably episode 20.
More.
Yeah, I think no 25. Who knows how many episodes there are this season? But this is the 25th, I think. It's been ages since we've done one of these.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a pretty epic couple of weeks running around the place. Particularly trying to get towards an R0 release of all APIs. And for those who haven't been following along, this is the idea of not just having a stable client-server API release, but also a stable server-server API and identity server and application server and push server and all the other amazing things.
All the specs.
All the specs in the world, and heaven forbid, stable implementation to go with them. And as you might have heard, we're aiming to get this done for August, and so we are officially extending Season 2 of Matrix Live until we ship basically in August, and then that would be a really obvious point for us to have a massive end of season hiatus for a whole week before we then begin Season 3.
During which we'll both be on holiday and
recording
Matrix Live from.
Yeah, clearly the responsible thing to do is to ship this in the middle of August, and everybody buggers off for an August summer holiday for a week or two. Let's see what happens. And sorry that we've been a bit patchy over the last couple of weeks. It really has been quite epic going and getting all of this together. But we can tell you all about it now.
Indeed.
I really need a haircut too. It's starting to go woo. That's nice. What about Riot, Amandine?
So Riot Web, a bunch of changes on Riot Web in terms of the team. We welcomed Bruno at the beginning of July, and we said goodbye to Luke, which was sad, but hopefully, things are continuing moving forward. There's been a lot of bug blitzing. Thanks to Tegai. Tegai has been squashing bugs all around. And we have a Riot 0.16 due next week with AGC everywhere. So have proper group call, LinkedIn, and Slate for the composer, which should fix a bunch of things. So yes, exciting.
Yeah, I mean, both of these have been dragging on for ages, honestly, but we keep getting hijacked by all sorts of high priority things of dragging Dave off Jitsi or and not having folks to progress on Slate, but both are going to be done and merged for next week.
That'd be nice. We also have an end-to-end test harness via Puppeteer at last. So thank you, Bruno, for making this happen. And initially it will be for onboarding bugs, right? Okay, onboarding, user onboarding.
That's really cool. We've never had one of these before.
So yeah. And we are also implementing the lazy loading of members, which should help a lot in terms of performances. So it will be done across both Riot Web and Riot Mobile.
So I think one of Luke's parting gifts was to hook this up on Riot Web, and I think he had in fact, there's a GIF which possibly we can get into this Matrix Live that shows the lazy loaded thing loading about 5 times faster than the non-lazy loaded thing, which is always nice. On the end-to-end test jig, it really is cool because we're firing up a whole dedicated Synapse as well as a dedicated Riot via Headless Chrome and going all the way around the houses, checking that things like onboarding and end-to-end encryption and things work, which for whatever reason we've never done before. It's always been tested in isolation, so having this in our testing arsenal might make Riot side a lot less in terms of regressions.
Yeah, less regressions. On the mobile side of things, lots of work on perf. So as I was saying, lazy loading and basically Manu is on iOS is decoupling the members from the state and then lazy loading the members. So with this 2 level, there should be quite a big difference when starting the app, especially. So iOS is leading and Android will follow. Step has been shipping some changes as well for performance.
And we've been trying to get a new iOS release out for a couple of days, but
yes.
Apple have decided to get very upset about the fact that we let people discover context via the address book and keep rejecting us because of the precise wording of that warning.
Yeah, we're finding our wording not clear enough. So this is like being the 3rd iteration. I think I just installed it, so let's see. But hopefully iOS new release should be out today. or tomorrow maybe. I don't know. Let's see when Apple pushes it.
Indeed. Shall I talk for ages about back-end stuff?
Yes.
So an awful lot of stuff has been happening on the back end and the spec side of things for the Arnold stuff. First of all, Synapse 32 last week, on last Friday I think, is a really important security upgrade. Please upgrade if you haven't already. This includes the whole feature of server ACLs, where if there's a malicious server out there which is attacking a room, you can go and now block the server from the room, but only if all the other servers are on Synapse 32 or later. So if you want this to work and not find yourself caught in the crossfire, if someone has to use this, and it has already been used actually to prevent a bot flooding attack in some room and was used successfully, still you want to upgrade to 32. And last time I checked, it looked as if about 2/3 of folk had upgraded, so if you're in the remaining 33%, please get involved.
Python 3?
Yes, lots of activity on Python 3. Hawk Owl, down back in Australia now, has been blitzing away getting tests to pass on Python 3. I believe almost all the unit tests now pass, which is relatively easy because they're not quite as high coverage as you might hope. But PsyTest is the real proof of the pudding, which is our integration test jig for Synapse and home servers in general. And I think last night I saw there were over 300 tests passing, and that's out of about 600. So that's honestly well over the hard bit of it now. And she's cracking away. And the hope is that we'll get a synchrotron running on Python 3 in the near future.
It'll be interesting, so even if it's not a huge visible impact, we should get some good data points on how much it improves things.
Yep. And it will also help our operational fun on matrix.org enormously, because I think we might be up to 10 synchrotrons now, between initial ones and incremental ones, and that's a lot of RAM and a lot of caches, but Python 3 will allow them to be 4 times smaller, roughly, in terms of memory footprint. So we're really trying to get the synchrotrons out on it first. We might even have some updates on it next week. We shall see.
Let's see.
Talking of which, lots of ops work in general over the last couple of weeks. As always, matrix.org is at capacity, and we've had some fun games, shuffling workers between hosts, upgrading hosts, upgrading operating systems on hosts, and generally running around trying to make them work better. And one thing that should be on the very close horizon is the very long-awaited status page for matrix.org, so that people can see whether it's up or down, which will probably get called uptime.matrix.org or something in the end. That ended up getting stuck behind an awful lot of other operational work that was going on, but it's looking pretty good. And finally,
Matrix quotas. That's what has been happening, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of time on metrics and quotas, trying to get a better experience on limited resource home servers, and those might be ones that we provide ourselves, or it might be ones like Disroot, who turn out to be discovered, like last week, to be having disasters with their server taking up too much resources, and so we've been going, and I've been doing some quota and metrics work there to improve things a bit. We've got Eric Good in the half shot attacking the dog in the background. This is typical. Does it actually make any sense? There we go.
No, they're good.
One dog and generally being distracting. So that's it on Synapse, I think. However, lots and lots of stuff on the spec side of things. So one of the things which we've been working on solidly on the spec side for the last few weeks has been trying to get an initial proposal together for an entirely new consensus algorithm for Matrix. So also called state resolution. This is what you do when you've got inconsistent views of a matrix room due to different servers having different views of the room because they all get slightly out of sync, and how do you go and resolve that back together to be coherent? We've talked about it literally now for years, In fact, we must be coming up to like the first year anniversary of Matrix Live. That's scary.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, possibly. Anyway, we've been going on about this for ages because it takes the form of state resets when the current algorithm goes wrong, where people find themselves spontaneously rejoined to rooms. They find that the state randomly goes back in time. There's also security issues where people can maliciously abuse that to generally manipulate the state of a room. So fixing this is a tough problem, but we believe we have a solution. Eric and VDH, and to a small extent myself, have been thinking through it over the last couple of weeks, and we have a write-up which is under final review to check there isn't anything completely embarrassing on it, and then we will open it to the world probably on Monday as a MSC Matrix spec change proposal for everybody to give their input on whether this is going to work. The highlights of it right now is that it's relatively similar to what we have today, except it works, basically. And it has the pet name at the moment of Fancy Pants State Resolution, because it is so fancy pants because it works. There's a catch that it takes more data to do its job. And it's a bit slower, which is not good news.
Yeah.
Except the good news is that it also works well with the incremental state res that we spent ages working on a few months ago. So whilst it slows down a bit on one hand, we should be able to compensate for that massively on the other hand with the incremental state res.
And hopefully get a positive outcome in terms of acceleration.
Yeah. Yep, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, the way the incremental state res stuff works is that for the common cases, everything gets a lot faster, and even as the rooms get bigger, it doesn't get slower. However, there's still going to be scenarios where it might go a bit slow.
Okay.
Part of that is also building a massive test jig for evaluating state res algorithms, which is flying around somewhere already, but will be released as part of the proposal there, so that people can have a play with it there. And I believe we've also basically got it ready to be dropped into Synapse itself as an implementation.
However, this is going to require version bump.
Indeed. Version bumps. So it's all very well completely changing the consensus mechanism, but it basically means that all the rooms using the old mechanism won't be able to talk to rooms on the new mechanism. So we need to finally do the thing where we bump the versions of rooms where we want to get using the new version. And this is what VDH has been working on a lot recently. And again, we have a proposal which we might as well chuck out on Monday about the same time. It looks pretty promising. It looks at about 4 different ways in which we can do this, one of which is the most promising. And assuming that everybody thinks it's a good idea, we'll go and crack on and get it implemented so that if you are using a client like Riot, and you're in a public room and you want it to be using the new resolution algorithm to be safe from state reset and style problems, then you can press the button to upgrade it, and all the users will get redirected through into the new room. A bit like what we did to Matrix HQ a few weeks ago, but with better UX, looking a bit more transparent. God, so what else?
We have Travis blitzing away on spec omissions and landing PRs, more PRs that we can review almost.
Yes.
It's too fast. Huge progress there, and next step is really review them and integrate them. So it's good to see things moving, actually.
Most excitingly, over the last couple of days, it shifted into server-to-server work with converting the awful placeholder server-to-server spec into a proper Swagger-based structured one like the CS API, and going through making clear where all the gaps are. And I think we're starting to fill up the gaps, because in practice a lot of the Federation stuff remains the same even with the different state resolution algorithm. So we're making good progress on that at last. You can go and look at the PRs now if you like. God, it's been a long week. Are we going to get through this without falling asleep? No, what would have been a really bad idea would be to drink beer at the same time. That's what could possibly go wrong with that.
Well, probably the question is more for the audience.
Indeed. Lots of work on the identity server and application service APIs as well. Ihareg, or Hubert, has been cracking on with last week the .well-known URI spec extension, and then third-party ID logins. And we've also had some internal discussion in the core team, which you may recall in the governance proposal from a few weeks or months ago. We put together a team of 8 folks to go and steer the spec going forwards, and we've been trying to get the processes right on that. One of the big gaps we have at the moment is not having a formal period to gather consensus or to at least give final objections before a proposal gets merged. And so we're going to introduce probably a 5-day final comment period, which is shamelessly stolen from Rust as a way to go and make sure that everybody has a chance to comment on proposals rather than them suddenly popping up and everybody reviewing it okay and then promptly hitting merge without the community having a chance to contribute. So there is ironically an MSC for that, which will go and circulate as soon as possible and then have 5 days for people to comment about. Dendrite.
So we still have an AP White Hat continuing to blitz on the AS and the Federation. So that's good. There is a third-party protocol support for the application services in the works. So no demo this week from Anwar, I think.
No, but there's a lot of forward progress there. I think next up is getting the query APIs supported on the ASs. There's a PR for the /alias API and for the /users API. And then I think we have basically everything in place for the ASs. Meanwhile, on AP White Hat side, and also timestamp massaging is ready and in review so that your ASs can lie about the time that events are sent. AP White Hat has been cracking on Federation despite it being somewhat in flux, and actually that work is turning out to be more useful than we expected because a lot of Travis's server-to-server spec work is being influenced by looking at what's been happening on Dendrite, where things are a little bit clearer and less nightmarish than the legacy Synapse code. So he's now working on EDUs, which are ephemeral data units, which are things like typing notifications, but then there are other things like device list updates, etc., that will need to happen. But honestly, we've got a good problem on Dendrite, and we're starting to run out of low-hanging fruit. Now, hopefully, this means that we will have got out of state res and Federation upgrade hell by the time that the Dendrite guys are ready for some moral support, and then we can go and provide a bit more support and unblocking them on the higher hanging fruit.
Yeah, big chunks. On the AS side of things, we have the new release for the IRC app service, so 0.9.1 with performance improvement. Let's see.
It's all half shots at work when he isn't abusing the dog, going and making the RC bridge run faster.
And start faster as well?
Yeah, starting up faster particularly. The thing historically has been pretty stupid when it loads and tries to rejoin everybody on the Matrix side, even if they're already joined. And on Freenode that can take about 3 hours. So it's a bit of an obvious thing in retrospect to fix, which is happening right now.
And lots of work on the end-to-end crypto side of things as well. So
yes.
UIC stats, which are coming in now.
Yeah, so all of right now, phones home whenever somebody gets a unable to decrypt error, so that we can see how many are still happening in the wild, and also reports the reason why. I did some work on fixing device list syncing, so we've had a very long-lived bug where if you delete a device, it doesn't disappear over Federation, and so people keep encrypting from it, which is both insecure and broken, and that is now fixed, hopefully, although it's not been reviewed yet. Hopefully my code isn't too bad. And finally, Hubert has moved on to encrypted backup of end-to-end keys. This is something that we were working on back in January, got overtaken by events, and now it's back again. The need to be able to not manually back up every week or whatever, but have the thing constantly backing up encrypted if you want to the server, so that if you lose your phone, you don't lose everything that's happened since you last backed up. Which will be very, very useful. What else?
I think that's about it.
I'm sure there was something
Do we
else
have
on
on
crypto.
Ben's on crypto? Decrypt before you join.
Ah, yes. Thank you.
That's quite a big one.
Yeah, also went and got tentative support in for encrypting messages for invited users in a room. It works almost all the time, unless, other than for the edge case, where the invited user adds devices after having been invited. And then we don't know, they don't know who to tell about the new devices because they're not yet in the room. So it's a bit of a causality mess up. In general, it's better than nothing, but that should be going live possibly already in Riot Web and possibly Riot Android in the new release. We need to probably make sure that's synchronized. But yeah, basically, gradually that will start to work, which is cool.
That's good.
Sorry, you had something?
No, I was thinking about Ben. What's...
As in This Week in Matrix stuff?
If he did, if there was anything from his side to mention here, aside from This Week in Matrix. Probably not. I know he was away most of the week, so.
Yeah, I don't think there's much there, other than on This Week in Matrix, we found a new Matrix client. Do you see this?
Yeah, Fluffy?
Yeah, Fluffy Chat. So one of the UB ports folk reached out to me on Matrix, Phoenix Lampire, to say, hey, have you seen Fluffy Chat? It's awesome. And I haven't got my Ubuntu phone on me right now, but if you go and look at This Week in Matrix, go and check out Fluffy Chat on GitHub. Not to be confused with another decentralized end-to-end encrypted chat system called Fluffy Chat. Look for the one that's the UB ports client, and it looks really, really cute. So
nice design.
If you're running UB ports, formerly known as Ubuntu phone, on your fancy open source phone platform, then give it a shout, give it a go, and give us a shout to let us know how it works. Right. Shall we drink beer and give up?
Let's. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for continuing to support Matrix.
I wanted to check whether it was 1 year. I think the very first one was like on the 8th of July last year. That would be a bit sad if we missed the anniversary and the opportunity to.
It's only by a week. This isn't going to be a very exciting thing for people to watch.
Almost there.
And the answer is...
if I knew how to use YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube has gone and moved everything around yet again. Lots and lots of pictures of Bride Lundig. Something you want to tell me?
14th of July 2017, episode 1.
Really? So...
Here we go. 1 year
actually,
ago.
1 year. Crazy. What a weird and wonderful year this has been. Let's keep doing season 2. Let's get Arnold out the door, and then we basically will have a stable Matrix, one way or another. Might even be fast, and God knows where things go from there.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for supporting us, right from where the funding crisis began this time last year, and to where we are today. And let's see what happens.
We should have got some candles and everything. Thank you, everyone.
Got some what?
Candles.
Candles. Oh, yes, for a
birthday
party. Cool. Bye, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Have a good weekend.